Hi, this is Tweek. On this week's episode of Tweaks with Tweek, I'm going to take some scrap fabric and turn it into a lovely baby blanket. Join us. Supplies you need for this project are your choice and size of fleece. I've got a fleece scrap here that's less than a half yard. You will need complementary colors to go with. I've got some squares that I cut into triangles, and you will need some yarn. Again, your choice of colors to complement your fabric. You'll need a puncher. A 1/16 inch Fisker needle puncher is what I use to punch, and you'll need a pair of scissors. You need a crochet hook. The size I'm using is a size G. And you will also need some fray check, but only if you wish to really set those yarn knots. So let's get started. With the cost of fleece rising, I am making use of scraps of fabric that I had kicking around. And this one's rather small. It's not even a half of yard. So once you find a piece of scrap that you'd like to use, you're going to have to get it ready for punching. In this particular case, there's usually an edge on the fleece that identifies where you got it. This one says Joanne fabric, and I'm going to pull that off. I'm going to cut that edge off. Nice easy line to follow. Done. Simple, simple. Next, we're going to punch holes all the way around the edge of the fleece. Now I just pick a corner, and I'm looking for the right side and the wrong side of the fleece because I want to punch going into the right side. I just look for the side that is a little fuzzier in its image. See the face on the monkey is just a little fuzzier. So I'm going to start on one corner, get my puncher, make sure the puncher is the needle's facing down, and I'm going to start about 1/4 to 1/8 of an inch from the corner and give a punch. To guide me along, I'm going to use the edge of the puncher itself, and I'm just going to punch. If it's a little bit off, it won't matter because the stitching you do with the crocheting will help to hide any imperfections. And I just go all the way around the circumference of the piece of fabric. So here I go. Almost done. Done. Oh, the little one. Little blanket is easier on the arms. So there we go. Next, I pick out a yarn that I like, and I love this neon green. And I found I had it in the house, a yarn that I thought complemented really well. So now I'm going to add a border. Very simple stitch. So we pick a corner and come off. There's a corner punch, and I come back just a few, 1 or 2 punches back. Push your needle through and pull the yarn through. And make a knot, a simple knot. I'm going to tie it twice. 1, 2, pull that one tight. Now you're going to go back in to the same hole and bring the yarn through again. And you've got a loop on the crochet hook. And you're going to bring the yarn through that loop. That's the stitch. That's the stitch you'll do around the whole circumference of the blanket. So here's the next hole. You go through, you bring the yarn through, and now you have two loops there. You pull through. Now I'm at a corner. I'm going to go through. Always when you go through, you have 1 loop left on the hook. Now this time this is a corner, so I'm going to put 3 loops, 3 stitches, and then I'm going to stitch 2 and 3. So each corner is going to hold 6 stitches. Let's do that. And the fleece is very amiable. We'll take 6 stitches. I don't think they'll like about fleece. And we put 2 on the corner there. And so I'm going to fit 3 more stitches into that corner. 1, 2. I'm just hiding that little tail as I go. 3. and you have a corner. See? Now you just pick up the next hole, go through. If you can't see the hole, hold it up to the light and you can find it easily. And at 3 more stitches here, oh, that little tail just disappeared. All the way around the circumference of the blanket. Here we go. So less than half an hour, and I'm almost done going around the edge of this little blanket. Love the colors, just love the colors. Now, I'm going to punch into the same hole where I started. And that fills the gap right there. Okay, now I'm going to come up in the top chain. I'm just going to slip these stitches under until I get to the corner. There we go. Here's your corner. Snip. Pull that tight. Now I'm going to add just a little bit of fray check to make sure those fibers knot up. Just a teeny bit, don't need a lot. That binds the fibers in the yarn, so that'll stick. And I'm going to leave that for now. Look at this. It's a perfectly adorable, could be completed baby blanket. And I want to do a little more to it. I want to use up some more of my scrap material that I had. And I had a bunch of squares. I had orange, I had blue. And what I did was, I thought, wow, they really match this fabric beautifully. I want to take, just on the sides, because you can tell where the top of the blanket is, where this would come up around. I want on the sides to add a little banner border. Very much like what you see here. See? Start out with one of the squares, a 6 by 6 square. I want to make them a little smaller, although you could leave them bigger by just cutting them in half. So I'm just going to fold this in on itself, cut it into a triangle. Now, come over to my blanket, because my blankets are all different sizes, so I'm using scraps. Now, here's where you decide. Do you want to put a bigger pennant on there or a smaller one? Let's show you without the smaller. Or do you want to use bigger and smaller? Whatever gets you from one side to the other is what you would use. See, so that could work out. Isn't that pretty? I'm going to work with the smallers. So let's see what we got here. Make it work out. Start at the edge there. I'm just kind of eyeballing it. So what I did is I took this, folded in itself to get our smaller triangles. Oh, and look at that. See, that works out great. A little bit of overlap will happen, but not much at all. Where you get these little intersections there. Here's what we do. Same process. Take one of these triangles, start at one of the corners, and I put kind of in the center, right in the center of the corner, put a punch. See how that's got a little piece on it too? Get that off. And now I'm just going to punch around the edge of this little triangle. And get towards the next corner, head for the middle of the corner. Now we're just going to flip around and go back down the other side. Done. Now, I'm going to take my scissor. I'm just going to take off a little tip of that fleece on those two corners. So when I go to come around with the yarn, that little piece of fabric won't be sticking out. So I've got my little teeny triangle. Then I take my yarn, and just like I did with the big piece, pick one of the corners just off of the edge. I come 1 or 2 circles, one punch off the corner, make a knot. You could choose any other color yarn you wish to. I'm using the same color that I edged the blanket with. Okay, now we just do what we did. Same stitch. His tail here, he's kind of long, but we'll take care of him. Now, because this is a little triangle piece, I'm going to come into that edge, that corner hole, and I'm going to put 2 stitches. 1, 2, and then I'm going to do 1 extra, and I'm going to come back into the same hole and do 2 more. I'll show you what that. I'm just making a corner there on this little teeny triangle. Okay, so when we come down, follow the rest of these down the line here. You're just basically doing the same thing. You're getting this little triangle ready to attach to the main part of the blanket. Okay. And as you continue, well, usually those little tails disappear. If there's too much, just pull it off. As you continue, you get this all the way around. Now we need enough of these to put, so you do 5 of them on this, your blanket. You'd measure that out and see what you need. And so I did that on this blanket here. Same thing. Each one was attached, and I'll show you how I did that. So what I want to do is find the wrong side, and that you can tell that just by looking at the stitches. A little bit difference, see? Okay, so I'm going to flip them in, and I'm going to attach this side to the blanket. Pick a spot next to where we just left off there, and come through the edge of that diamond. Bring your yarn through. Okay, and I'm just going to tie a knot here. As I'm applying these little triangles, you can add them in and keep going with the same string of yarn for demonstration purposes. I cut that off and I'm starting the new piece here. All right, so you're going to go into the same place that you just tied off and bring under. You've got the same stitch going again. This time you're going to look for the chain. To me, it's a chain of yarn that lies across each piece. There's one side here and one side there, and you can buddy those 2 up and come through. And I'm always looking to make sure I'm going to be even on the end here. This is lining up very nicely. So go under the 2 chains, come through. If it gets a little tight, just wiggle around with the needle there and work your way underneath the yarn. Almost the end. I'm going to put a few more in here. Try to find the chain. Work through the other side. And I think I can put one more stitch here towards the top of the blanket and the top of the triangle. Pull through. And you've got them attached. See how that works out? Pretty nice, huh? So to finish that off, let's cut. Pull it through. Finishes off that. Now I'm going to tie these 2 together to make that nice and secure on that edge. Now I'm going to snip off that and add a little bit of fray check to make sure that knot is going to be secure. Just a tiny little bit. You can just see it discolors the fabric a little bit, but it dries clear. What have we got now? we've got our blanket. Now I see a little bit of a gap between these two right here. I want to tighten that up a little bit. Got these guys going down here. I'm just going to tie the tails together. See how they blend right in? I really don't want a real big knot there, but I'll make it tight as I can. Add a little bit of fray check there. Bind the fibers and then snip that excess off. I want to do one more thing. You could stop here if you'd like. I just wanted to make the whole thing a little more cohesive. I wanted to just sharpen up these edges a little bit. And I'm going to do that by adding a complementary yarn. I'm going to use the white. And so I'm going to go around the whole circumference of the blanket using the same stitch. I'm going to start at one of the corners, go all the way around, and go up and down each little valley here. You just follow the chain, very simple. And the white will bring out the little dots that are in this fabric that you may not have noticed. So I'm going to grab a corner here. And I'm just going to pick a spot near that knot, because there's going to be another knot next to it here pretty quick, but it will disappear. Now you've got this bright white coming in. I'm going to make a simple knot. You're just repeating the same thing as you did around each triangle and around the edge of the blanket. Now I'm going to go into that hole, come up, and here we go. You're just going to follow. Each chain is going to get a stitch. So it's taken me about 30 minutes to go around with my white edging. You see how it just makes the fabric pop. I just love it. And I want to talk a little bit about it as we go up and down these peaks and valleys here. So we're coming down the side here of the triangle. And when you get down to there, we're doing the same simple follow the chain as you go. Very simple. And you get down to where the triangles meet. Still follow the chain, but if there's a gap there, I'll show you, just slip a stitch into it. So we're coming down, see, right in there. Got one here to get. Following the chain, follow the chain, follow the chain. Now if I followed right over to that chain, it would be like, I don't like the gap. So I'm going to come down here. There's a little hole where they meet up, and I'm going to add a stitch there. And on the other side, there's another little hole. And I'm kind of just like bridging the gap in the little valley there, see? And we come back to the chains. This last final run around with the yarn and edging it just smooths it out and makes it a little more cohesive. See how that looks? Isn't that pretty? Yeah, like that. So we're coming up. There's a little bit more to go. Just follow the chains up. You can do one of these blankets easily. You can do one in a day. And that's another part that's really fun, because I'm using random scraps of material. Putting this final edge on it kind of hides the knots too. I like that. You kind of stitch right over them and they disappear. One more time in the same spot where I started. Pull through and we're finished. But what I'm going to do is go up this white chain where we started. I'm going to pull through there. I'm going to finish this off a little nicer, and I'll do one more. See, I want that to, and a third. snip, and pull this through. Do a little knot there. Now I'm going to hide that. And that means I'm just going to use this little tail that's here. I'm going to come back under the chains and pull that through. I'm just kind of making sure that the yarn doesn't come undone. Clean up that edge a little bit. Okay, now I'm going to give that a snip because it's hidden well enough. There's a little bit of a bump there, but that's okay. I'll put a little tiny bit of fray check there to make sure that doesn't come undone. Just a dab. That dries clear. Good. What do we have for all our efforts? A festive baby blanket with a little bit of a twist. And there you have it. Our blanket is done, just big enough to cover up a little one. So if you like what you've seen here today, give us a like, subscribe to our channel. Don't forget to ring the bell so you know when another episode of Tweaks with Tweek is coming along. Until then, like I said, those scraps can be made into something fun, beautiful, warm, snuggly. You can do it. See you again.